Great, thank you. Good afternoon. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Larry Clay, and I'll be chairing today's session. Panel members today are Paul Gogan, Nellie Volport, Dylan Reed, and Peter Reed. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will be automatically muted upon entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called upon to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, specified persons and public bodies are permitted to appeal decisions of Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out in the bottom of the decision of the committee. Today, I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak with the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I'll comment when you're reaching the 5 minutes. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please state clearly your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we call on the speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion and the application will be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any declarations of interest, either panel or staff?
Yes.
Peter, what is it? Which one is it?
Item 21, which is 117 Harrison.
Okay, and the reason?
Just to avoid the appearance of conflict, one of the applicants is my spouse's colleague.
Great, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, we're good. Any deferral requests this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and panel members. See no deferral requests for this afternoon.
Nor closing any files?
None for this afternoon.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, we will proceed to this afternoon's first item, which is number 19, 466 to 468 Dovercourt Road. This is an application to alter the development standards as approved under site-specific zoning bylaw 31-2021 for a 7-story mixed-use building that has varying heights by increasing the residential gross floor area and the height of the building. Also to reduce the mechanical penthouse area setback and the number of vehicular parking spaces and the number of loading spaces. There will be a total of 40 dwelling units on the lot. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 9 photographs of the subject property, covering letter from the agent, email correspondence between staff and solid waste collection, email correspondence between staff and transportation services, presentation material from the agent, transportation letter prepared by BA Consulting Group, and site-specific bylaw 31-2021 affecting the subject property. We have reports from Urban Forestry and Transportation Services, and we have correspondence and opposition from 470 and 472 Dovercourt Road, and Mr. Flynn with no address provided.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person with us. We also have the owners of 470, 472 Dovercourt Road here in person to speak in opposition. And we do have one person online to speak in opposition.
Okay, great, thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Your name and address, please. Oh.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Lewis Tinker. I'm a registered professional planner, and my address is 3 Church Street.
Great, thank you very much. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Okay. Yes, I'm here on behalf of the owner of 466 Dovercourt Road, and as you indicated in your opening remarks, it is a request before you to amend a site-specific bylaw approved back in 2021 for a 7-story mixed-use building. Coming before you today, we had extensive pre-application discussions with community planning staff, urban design, transportation services, and also economic development staff at the City of Toronto. We are asking for, I guess, 3 sort of buckets, if you will, of changes. One is 3 variances that relate to some modifications that we're making on the westerly portion of the site. You can see from the massing that you have sort of 2 blocks, a eastern block, which is immediately adjacent to the residential property to the north, and then a western block. It's the western block that we're looking for a 2 feet or 0.6 meter increase as shown on the screen right now. We're not increasing the number of stories, we're increasing that overall height and also the extensiveness of the mechanical penthouse. When this block was originally designed, the uppermost floor was accessed only by way of a stairwell. We've looked to reconfigure that floor so that an elevator can go all the way up to the very top floor, which is then projecting up a sort of an extension of that mechanical. So, you know, in my humble opinion, it's a minor increase in height. It's largely structural and operational to do with the mechanical penthouse. We have another series of variances that are to do with the interior reconfiguration of the GFA. As you'll note, we're not asking for an increase in overall GFA. We're not asking to increase the total combined residential and non-residential. We're looking to increase the amount of residential above the cap that was included in the site-specific bylaw. It has the effect of reducing some of the non-residential, but not all of the non-residential. This continues to be a mixed-use project that has commercial space on the first floor, the second floor, and in the basement of the site as well. And the Economic Development Department and Community Planning would like us to continue to find music-related commercial uses to occupy those spaces that will remain within this proposal. It was something that was discussed as part of the original rezoning. As you may be aware, this is a site that was formerly occupied by the Matador Music Hall, but has been vacant for 17 years. So we're asking for a reconfiguration of that interior space, and it creates some variances to do with where the residential will be located vis-a-vis the commercial, and also remove some of the mezzanine levels that were on the second floor of the building. A loading request to not provide an on-site loading space. We had extensive discussions with solid waste management and with transportation about this. As you've seen in the report, they do acknowledge that this is a building that would qualify to not have a loading space under its policies around mid-rise buildings. We are providing a widening of the laneway, Bill Cameron Lane, to the west of the site. We're providing a wide laneway to help with vehicular movements, and we're also, if you see on the ground floor, identifying a place where the bins associated with the garbage can be screened and set out for garbage day as well. That widening of the laneway will also accommodate other sort of incidental sort of deliveries and things like that to the development. So we noticed that the Transportation Division recommended some conditions of approval, I think I would categorize them. We can accommodate them, and we have accommodated them in the plan, and we would obviously support, having that condition tied to any approval in the hopes that you do approve our application. I understand that there are some concerns that have been expressed by other parties, and certainly have reviewed those, and happy to hear them here today, and hopefully have the chance to respond to them afterwards.
Great, thank you. It feels like it's closing time for the Matador. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could clarify what the original commercial space was intended to be, so we can understand what's changing. I was looking through the files, and it looked like the original commercial space was going to be 2 stories, 2 levels high. Is that correct?
Yeah, there was going to be an opportunity for it. We were always going to be like a basement space, if you will.
Yeah. But
then being 2 stories high with these sort of mezzanine commercial areas, sort of overlooking that basement area.
Okay.
That was the original design. We've retained the basement area in the new design, and we also have a 2-story suite that fronts onto Dovercourt as well as a separate suite. When you say suite, is that the
like a unit, like a that's the commercial unit. Space?
Yeah.
So it's still 2 stories.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And but the change is that it's not as deep. Now you're taking some of the back space that was going to be at the back and turning some of that into residential. Is that correct?
What we're doing is we're converting what would have been the sort of mezzanine second floor area overlooking that basement into residential.
Oh, I see. Okay. And is also the ground floor residential? Is that space that was originally going to be commercial?
Yes.
Right. And was that originally part of the, just it was going to be one single bigger space, or was it going to be, are there separate spaces that are being removed?
There would have been one single larger space that was supported by those 2 mezzanines. The larger ground basement level footprint is still proposed as part of this development. It's those additional sort of mezzanine areas that created that double height space. And
also the back area is also being removed from the commercial.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Quick question on, so your residential GFA is going from, I think, is it 2,400 to 2,950, roughly?
That's correct, yes.
And how many additional units is that over what was being included in the original application?
In total, it would be an extra 18 units.
18, so for a now total of 40?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. And they're all rental, or is it condos?
I don't think that the tenure has been determined just yet, but I think originally it was planned to be condo.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can call up David Evans and Jennifer Bethel if they want to approach the podium.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Maybe I can get both of you to give us your names and address, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm Jennifer Bethel, Bethell, at 472 Dovercourt Road.
Great. And you, sir?
David Evans, 472 Dovercourt Road.
Okay, so you're together, obviously?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes combined.
Well, we actually own 470 Dovercourt as well, so we each
Oh, okay.
have 5 technically.
Okay, okay. If you're going to both speak, maybe just not try and repeat each other.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
We'll be brief, succinct, I promise. So we have been objecting in writing all along, and you'll have that as part of your file. I mean, very simply put, a 7-story building built up to the property line of a neighborhood. Our neighborhood, you can touch the 2 buildings with your hands. It's too big, but I appreciate that that's not the discussion we're having today. And so we will continue to object, and we've objected in writing to any further expansions in terms of space, in terms of height, in terms of width, what have you. But I think we also very specifically object to the lack of loading space. Dovercourt Road is a busy road. There's 2 street parking spots in front of the building, but otherwise there's nowhere for anyone to pull up. And I can tell you from experience that people park in front of our driveway or park in front of our garage on Bill Cameron Lane on a regular basis. It's often blocked, and this is just going to exacerbate the issue. I question on moving day and on a day where 40 people or 40 plus people, 40 units are occupied, the Uber drivers and the Amazon delivery, where are they going to go and where are they going to park their car? If not in the middle of Dovercourt Road, it'll be in the middle of Bill Cameron Lane, and it'll block traffic, and I can tell you that infuriates the neighbors. So this is an issue, this is a problem, and I'm concerned about it.
Okay, thank you very
I
much.
think the picture that was shown,
Want to move a little closer to the mic for us, that'd be great, thank you.
yeah, the picture that was shown for the designated collection area, it shows the truck fully blocking the driveway. So, and that would, regardless of some, widening of Bill Cameron Lane that was proposed, it clearly shows it's just completely blocked. So we just don't understand, how that makes any sense. So that's, not to belabor that point. I think on the height and the parking, the minor variances that are being requested now are in addition to the prior variances to get the structure to where it is. So kind of making that the starting point of the case kind of seems, I guess, unfair. I think the other thing we'd like to raise would be there's a vine on that building, a mature vine that is 50 plus years old. So we'd like to make sure that that's protected and addressed. I think that's part of when the arborist is supposed to be talking with them from a planning perspective, but I don't know if that's something that can be addressed here in the proposal at this time to make sure that happens.
Probably not, it's not really within our jurisdiction, but certainly we can raise it with the agent.
Thank you.
Just a couple questions. So have either of you, it hasn't been an entertainment venue for, I think it was 17 years is when the last time I was there. Were either you on the street then?
No, we purchased in 2008.
Okay. I was just wondering what the volume of activity would be if there were an entertainment facility there, and the impact on parking. Is there public parking? I'll ask the agent the same question, but is there public parking in and around the area? Is it?
There's street parking on Dovercourt Road, which is always full. You can ask anyone who tries to park at our house. And there's parking along College Street. There's paid parking along College Street as well.
And no green pea lot or anywhere? Okay. Okay. Great. Anyone else have any questions of these speakers? Thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you.
Hello, Arella. You have been unmuted to speak.
Oh, okay, great. Can you hear me?
Yes, please, if you can give us your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Arella Gannon. I live at 2 Macklin Avenue. I'm a community member. I've been very involved with Matador for many, many, many years. In 2000, and I have a few points. One question you asked about the Green Pea parking. There is a Green Pea parking right now at Dundas and Ossington, and it's going to become affordable housing shortly. That was just recently announced. But there is not enough parking anywhere around here. And in 2007, this land, 466 Dovercourt, was slated to become expropriated to become a Green Pea parking lot because there just isn't enough parking. Extending from 18 to 40 units does not feel like a minor variance. It feels like a major variance. This neighborhood does not need more penthouses and luxury condos. What we need is some affordable housing or affordable spaces for musicians. And this, you mentioned Closing Time. That song was written about the Matador, and the video was shot there. But I think this is a great space. It would be lovely if the developer had included some community spaces, affordable spaces, or something for the neighborhood to get excited in. To go from 18 to 40 units means that the parking restrictions are going to become more significant. I agree with the other neighbors who speak. I think that we need a lot more music venues in the area. And if the developer had said, well, one of the quote unquote commercial spaces is going to be something for the community, rehearsal spaces or places for communities to gather, I think the community would be a lot more amenable. But I think that this is not a minor variance to go from 18 to 40 units. And I think this tiny bit of property that had been, a union hall during the Second World War. It had been all sorts of things in all its years. And for it to become a really bland luxury condo is a very sad thing. I should also say that having commercial spaces at the main floor of a condo is not a new idea, and we see lots of vacant places. It would be really wonderful if there was a way for this to be music themed and they could provide affordable spaces for music themed enterprises, at least something, so that the neighborhood could get excited about this. Because looking at this application, and especially with this new major variance, not minor, I just don't see it. It's like they're trying to squish as many units into as little space as possible. And this is a historically significant space. I think that's all I wanted to say.
Great, thank you very much. Panel, any questions? Okay, thank you very much. We'll have the agent back, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the comments from the people that have spoken to you today. I just want to say, on behalf of the owner of the property that, with respect to the adjacency to the neighbors to the north, I hope that you can see from the original design of the building and what is continued through here is an acknowledgement that there is this adjacency between this mixed-use building and the neighborhood building. And they've been very careful in the design of the building to ensure that there is no overlook and impact on privacy on that adjacent property owner. Actually creating two separate blocks of buildings with a gap in between was purposefully approached in order to allow for some sunlight to come through into their rear yard. So through the rezoning and official plan amendment process, there was a considerable amount of work and design done. And all I would say is that the overall sort of massing and the overall GFA of this building is not changing from that original proposal, with the exception of these minor operational elements on the roof. And as you can see, it's on the portion of the building that is furthest away from their properties. It's on the portion of the building that is at the rear lane, Bill Cameron Lane as well. And we think that that will have a minimal, if any, impact on the adjacent properties. The number of units is not a variance that is before you. The committee is not being asked to determine whether it's appropriate to increase the number of units. I do we're not adding GFA, and what we're trying to do here is, balance these two public interest matters. One is, increasing housing supply in the city. We think we are able to do that modestly within the same building envelope that we have approved for the city, approved from the rezoning application, but at the same time also retain those commercial spaces that were discussed during the rezoning that, again, my client is committed to. And it's why I mentioned that we've been speaking with economic development staff. We've been speaking with them before we made this application about how we can continue to find those smaller music-related industries that are looking for space in this neighborhood. And so we're still providing that opportunity in the two-story unit that's fronting onto Dovercourt and the basement unit as well. We're not quite sure exactly what that's going to entail in terms of end users, but we're still providing that opportunity in the long term. So that's the balance that we've been trying to make. There was no discussion during the rezoning about community space, as some kind of Section 37. The scale of the project didn't sort of justify a dedication of community space, but what we did commit to doing is a commemorative plan for the Matador, and there's a number of things that we're still required to fulfill. It's things like retaining the signage. It's things like providing a home where the public can view the famous wall that's inside the Matador that has all the signatures and the writing from the artists that played there over the decades. And again, that is a commitment that we're being held to by heritage staff and by planning department. So there is not necessarily a community space, but there is the sort of public accessibility to the building. There's a lobby there. I think that would make a great location for such a iconic piece of work that would commemorate the Matador in the long term as well. So, I just point to the considerable amount of work and consideration that's been done about the transportation-related matters to do with parking and to do with loading. And again, we're happy to support the conditions that have been presented to us by transportation staff.
Great, thank you very much. Panel, any questions? Dylan?
Could you just go into a bit more detail about why a loading bay is not practicable?
I think if you look at the dimensions of the site, I think having to accommodate quite a large loading bay on site would impact the ability to provide, the commercial and also the back of house for both the commercial and the residential on site as well. So there's a dimensional aspect to this, or a spatial aspect, and turning circles onto the laneway. The laneway at the back is already being used as where solid waste management pick up the garbage. They're already periodically going along, collecting the garbage, stopping and collecting the garbage and moving. And at first, actually, transportation staff suggested that maybe the garbage pickup would be on the Dovercourt, and we actually, combined with urban design staff, sort of said, no, that's not a great use of the public realm along Dovercourt. It's a residential street. We want to have maybe some street trees, and we were able to convince them, and they agreed that we would have the garbage and loading off the Bill Lane, which I think is an appropriate place for it to be.
Another question.
Sure, go ahead, Dylan.
So one of the letters in opposition, not one of the people, mentioned that, and I think you sort of implied this too, that the commercial space was intended as, in some sense, compensation for the loss of the Matador. And I'm just wondering, the much smaller space that you're now proposing, I'm assuming that the larger space originally was intended as a space that could be used for, some kind of musical, would give space for more options for some kind of musical space, whether it's performance or a studio or who knows what. I'm just wondering if, reducing that commercial space is really limiting the intended options for use of that commercial space for some kind of musical venue.
My client can speak to more to the sort of investigations and conversations he's had with potential end users. All I would say is that there was never an intent for it to remain as a music venue because of the adjacency to the residential, because of the introduction of residential above. I think there was an idea that maybe there could be some sort of studio recording spaces. There could potentially be sort of administrative office spaces that were associated to a music-related business. And all I would say is I think because of the retention of the entire that basement area, kind of large footprint, there's still an opportunity to put, quote, studio-type spaces in there. And that sort of separate two-story unit, commercial unit that, again, fronts onto Dovercourt, can still be a space that could provide for sort of administrative kind of space as well, maybe a head office of something that's related to the music industry. A lot of applicants usually are able to fulfill their non-residential using a very broad range of uses. And in here, we have an applicant that's only being asked to kind of look at a very niche kind of end user. So,
what's the size of the, with these variances, what's the size of that ground level commercial space?
The only number that I have is the total. I don't have the breakdown, but it's around 4,000 square feet.
Total, including the basement?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Nellie?
I just understand that the original approval was in 2021, right? So my question is, what has changed and what was the major driver for you to go through the process again of, redesigning and submitting a new application?
I wouldn't necessarily say that we've gone through the process all again. I think there has certainly been an interior kind of a reflection upon how that the envelope is being used. The original application was developed pre-COVID. Ultimately, it was approved shortly after, and my client has had conversations since then with potential end users. And not only is the non-residential market been impacted by COVID in different ways, but the specific market has been as well. And so, that was one factor. Another factor was looking to see if there was an opportunity to optimize how many residential units could be in the building as well without having to significantly increase height or change the massing of the building. And so, we didn't just come ahead without speaking with planning, with urban design, with economic development, with transportation staff, and coming to what we think is an appropriate modification to the original approval.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Tinker. Appreciate it. We will go into committee and open it up to your comments, your thoughts. Dylan?
Yeah, I'd say most of this is fine, understandable. I sympathize with with the concerns over the lack of a loading zone, but I did read the details, and it really seems like an impractical thing. So I'm sympathetic to that. The height is really minor. My one concern is the reduction in the commercial space and how much that limits the options. I'm a little bit in two minds because I think that the idea was originally to kind of honor the history of the Matador by creating a large space for something. But I also understand it's true that commercial spaces are much less in demand now than they were. And of course, residential spaces are valuable in the city. So I'm kind of in two minds on that, on those particular variances.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? I'll just weigh in. agree with what you're saying. What we're seeing increasingly, particularly ground floor retail or ground floor commercial, is difficult to fill unless it's a high traffic area, and even then we're seeing lots of ground floor vacancies that frankly go unfilled. So coming out of the pandemic, we are starting to see a lot of requests for conversion from that commercial to residential, and I think that's a reflection of the changing dynamic on the business side. So I totally get that. It's good that the applicant, I think, is trying to animate the space with music-related activity, whether that's successful or not. I mean, let's hope so. I think, the history of this venue would suggest that that would be a great site for that kind of stuff. I think, frankly, when we look at the variances that are before us, it is simply a minor increase in height to allow for a larger mechanical structure, to allow for elevator service for, this is a 6-story building, I believe, which I'm sure the people on the top floor would appreciate having an elevator. So I think it's a supportable application from my perspective. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak, or we can maybe have a motion. Nellie?
I have a question with regards to variance number 1.
Okay.
Yes, just to hear your opinion, because I can see the height and everything connected to mechanical penthouse are minor, but there is variance number 1, right? That dwelling units must be located above non-residential portions. And do you consider this variance minor if we have 4 units located on the?
I don't, but I appreciate anyone else's perspective. I didn't think it was a particularly egregious variance.
I can comment on that from my perspective. I think that the intent of this bylaw is to prevent negative relationships between the commercial unit and the residential unit would be my guess. And the way that the first floor residential units have been arranged, they face onto the interior courtyard and don't have a direct relationship with the retail. And from my perspective, I think that's a good way to go about it in terms of having some purely residential area that they focus on too. So that's not a huge concern for me either. And I agree with my colleagues about with the comments that they've made. I think that the fact that there is commercial remaining is good, and as particularly being on Dovercourt, I think it's so close to a more intensive commercial development on College, and I think that's probably a better spot for larger commercial uses to go as well.
Okay. Is that helpful? Okay. All right, I'll look for a motion. Peter?
Thanks, Chair. I think for the reasons we've all kind of brought up cumulatively, I'm happy to move approval. I think the variances being requested are small, and they're just a minor change to what was previously approved at the zoning stage. And there has been thorough vetting of this from multiple city departments. So I move approval with urban forestry condition 1 and transportation condition.
Great. Motion to approve from Mr. Reed with those conditions. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Gogan? All in favor? It's unanimous. You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's been a request to hold item 20. The applicant is at Community Council right now, so we could proceed with the item after that and then come back to item 20 when he returns.
Okay. What do we have left in this afternoon session? Where are we going to? What number?
25?
It's
Item 25? Yeah.
number 23 starts at 4 o'clock? Okay.
Actually, through you, Mr. Chair, we did send out notices that showed 2 o'clock,
Oh,
just because we didn't have as many applications like we
Okay,
typically
so it's
do.
just running
So we're just
right
going to
to-
run
okay.
through the items.
that's great. Thank you for that.
So we're going to hold item 20, and we're going to move on to item 21.
Yes, Peter, we'll
Someone come get me after?
we'll come and get you. Thank you.
Kicked out.
Okay, we move on to, we're going to skip, hold down number 20, and we're moving to item number 21, which is 117 Harrison Street. And this is an application to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a complete third-story addition, a rear ground level addition, also to construct the rear ground level deck and the front porch with stairs. The committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, one photograph of the subject property, a cover letter from the agent and supporting materials from the agent, and another photograph of the subject property received January 23rd. Staff report from Urban Forestry and correspondence and support from 115A Harrison Street. So,
Through you, Mr. Chair, we only have the agent speaking on this item.
great, thank you very much. And could we get the agent online?
Hello, George Popper. You have been unmuted to speak.
Yes, good afternoon, members of the committee, and through you, Mr. Chair. My name is George Popper. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, please. If you, your address as well, please.
Yes, my address is 397 Brunswick Avenue, Unit 10. I'm the agent for my son and daughter-in-law who've lived in the house for 6 or 7 years now. And they both work primarily from home, and they have 2 young children, and they just need more space. And so they're proposing to do a 3rd floor addition and a small 1-story addition at the back for a mudroom and powder room, a 1-story flat addition, which is 2.5 meters square or so. And I can go through all the variances for you if you like, and the explanations for them, but they're all covered in my cover letter. So if you'd like me to proceed, I'd be happy to do so.
Just if you
And
just,
I should also, can I just add one more thing? So they have one letter of support from an adjacent neighbor, and the other neighbor has no objections. They haven't submitted a letter, but my son and daughter-in-law are in very good terms with both neighbors, and they want to maintain very good neighborly relations with their neighbors. And that's one of the reasons they want to stay in the neighborhood and expand the house, is because they enjoy the neighborhood and the neighbors. So they work very closely with the neighbors on this.
great, that's good news. I wouldn't mind, I think we would benefit from not a full presentation, but maybe you just hit the highlights, please.
Okay, so the first variance has to do with the front yard landscaping. And the only reason this variance is triggered is because they're removing a small portion of the porch in order to be able to tuck the garbage bins on the side of the porch under a kind of a raised portion of the porch. And so the porch would not be covered in as hard landscaping, but the hard landscaping that they are putting in, of course, is covered. So that triggers a minor variance, but it's for a perfectly good cause that eliminates the unsightly garbage bins from view, and I think it's a worthy proposal. In terms of height, there's no height variance, but the way the bylaw is worded, it triggers a variance because of the nature of the parallel walls wording in the bylaw. And so even though we're more than a half meter, about a half meter less than the maximum height. So what they're trying to propose is a modern, very modern looking contemporary home. And so we've demonstrated how it could be designed to meet the bylaw, and that would just make the elevation very fussy. But by making it a more contemporary looking project, it requires a minor variance. In terms of the depth of the building, we exceed the maximum depth only because of the small mudroom addition at the back. The house is no longer than the immediate house to the east, number 115, the neighbor who submitted the letter. It is actually shorter by 3 or 4 inches at the front and is exactly the same length at the rear. So there are numerous other examples in the neighborhood of houses that have exceeded the length, and we think this is an appropriate variance in this case. The GFA has been increased to about 1 times coverage, and again, there are numerous other examples in the neighborhood in my cover letter that go over other properties that have exceeded the GFA. And so this is within the realm of common variances that have been approved. The other variance is what was for this, that the stairs up to the porch would be closer to the property line than permitted. And again, the neighbor who is not present, but who they worked very closely with, has no objection to the stairs being built close to the property line. And then there's the side yard variance. All we're doing with the side yard variance is maintaining the existing side yard variance that's in place for the 2-story dwelling. We want to have that applied for the 3rd floor as well. So that's a mere extension of the variance there. In terms of the front, we are building a couple of feet forward on the 2nd and 3rd floor, but is in line with the existing bay window that's presently there. So we're not going any closer than the existing front face of the building. So I think that summarizes the variances. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you. I think you might appreciate that when variance number 1, when we get a request for considerably below what the bylaw requires, it gets our attention, even though it's really a relatively small area given your property line, and it looks like your boulevard does have grass on it. But it would help, I think, if instead of having hard landscaping, your client would be open to maybe making that walkway out of permeable pavers. Might help, the ability of the ground to absorb more water.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable suggestion. I think they would be happy to comply with that.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much, sir. We're going to take it into committee for a decision. I'll look for a motion. Nellie?
I think in this case, it's commendable that, the design tries to keep within the existing, framework, which is, nice for neighbors, and it, kind of fits into the neighborhood. I do support the condition of permeable pavers, because it's the most significant variance we have. So I would move a motion to approve it with a condition of the permeable pavers. And I think we have a forestry condition, 1 and 3.
Yes, that's great. Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Gogan. So motion to approve this application subject to forestry 1 and 3 plus constructing the front walkway with permeable pavers. Moved by Ms. Volport, seconded by Mr. Gogan. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can go back to item number 20 now, and we're just going to have Mr. Peter Reed enter back into the room.
Welcome back, sir. Okay, we go back to item number 20, 428 Lakefront. And this is an application to construct a new 3-story detached dwelling with an integral garage. The committee has in front of it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Decisions number A 1090/18 TUI and 2018-69-93 S4519 TLAB affecting the subject property. Arborist report, supporting materials from the agent, a tree protection plan, comments from engineering, and staff reports from urban forestry and the TRCA. We have support from 43 Beaumar Road, 11 form letters in support from 122 Fallingbrook, 384 Kingswood, 125 Cornell, 438 Lakefront, 9 Monroe Park Avenue, 107 Malvern, 26 to 50 Battenberg Avenue, 125 Cornell, 384 Kingswood, and 23 Glenfern. We have one form letter signed by the occupants of 34 Monroe. And correspondence in concern from 424 Lakefront, received on January 19th and January 22nd.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online as well as one person speaking in concern online.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, could we get the agent, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's Mr. Bronskill, 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400, Toronto, Ontario. And I just thank staff for helping me coordinate being with you and with Toronto East York Community Council.
It's our lucky day, Mr. Bronskill, 3 times a charm.
Right, and well, mine too, for being able to do both of them. I really do appreciate staff facilitating, and no disrespect was intended in terms of me being over there and not with you.
Okay, you have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually going to, if you don't mind, focus in on the condition that has been recommended in the correspondence that is both sort of a letter of support and a letter of concern, because there's no concern from planning staff. There's letters of support, and I'm going to call it a letter of support because it's recommending a condition of approval, but then it goes on to recommend some additional language as part of a standard condition of approval. And just for the panel's benefit, there's been a lot of work that's gone into the application, and in particular to cite this structure. I was not involved in the previous proceedings. I am involved now, and I think that work has resulted in a citing of the structure on the property that has addressed previous concerns, and in particular, sight lines from adjacent homes that actually extend across my client's property, but out to beautiful views of the lake. And
Mr.
that had
Bronskill,
been
I'm sorry,
part of the
I don't want to
previous
interrupt,
concern.
but I'm sorry for interrupting. So I apologize for interrupting. As part of your comments, and I'm sure you're going to deal with it, but if you could help the panel understand fundamentally what the difference is in the proposal that's before us versus the one that was here previously as well.
Yes, absolutely can. I think at a high level, Mr. Chair, most important part of this is the view corridors, and you can see them there on the screen, the blue lines extending across. Those are then on page 4 of the presentation that our client put together, also shown. And it's, if I can put it this way, sir, it's both a pushing back of the dwelling and a sculpting of the dwelling, as well as the amenity areas, to ensure that views from those properties are maintained. And that had been a primary issue as part of the previous, as I understand it, the previous debate and opposition that eventually recognized, frankly, in a refusal. And so it's now cited in between those properties in a manner to try and maximize those sight lines and views. And that's why there are letters of support for what is before you. The condition that's recommended, Mr. Chair, is a condition that would tie the proposal to plans. We have no concern with that condition. And that's because, again, the siting of the building and its particular elements, including that there's a roof on the eastern outdoor room, but no roof on the western outdoor room, is important to the neighbor to the west. So we have no concern with that condition, Mr. Chair, and would actually recommend that the Committee of Adjustment impose that condition. The concern I have, Mr. Chair, is that the condition then goes on to have additional language that I think is either unnecessary or vague, which causes me concerns when we go and get a building permit. So the unnecessary part is there's a concern, if I could ask staff maybe to go to the west elevation in the plans, there's a request that the condition include language that the plans be revised to have no roof over the terrace on the western portion of the property. The plans, when read as a whole, clearly do not have a roof there. The roof that is seen, if you look on the right-hand side of that west elevation, what is causing the confusion is the roof that is seen there is the roof that's on the eastern side of the dwelling over the outdoor room. It's because it's a two-dimensional elevation and we don't have perspective on this. So it looks like there's a roof on the western portion, but there is not. And that's frankly clear on all of the other plans that are before you. It's an uncovered terrace on that western portion. And so that elevation does not have a roof over that area. The site plans do not have a roof over that area, and the ground floor does not have a roof over that area. So there's no need to say that there should be no roof over that area or that the plan should be revised to have no roof over that area. That's clear on the drawings. And so it's an unnecessary addition to the condition, and I just think would cause confusion. There's also a request that the basement be entirely below ground. That's vague language, Mr. Chair. I don't think it's requesting a change to the plans, but I am concerned that a condition like that is vague and could lead to misinterpretation by the buildings department when there are small portions of the basement that are above grade but buried or just protrude. And so again, I think it's a condition that's unnecessary and overcomplicates things. When the plans are clearly what's supported, if we're tied to plans, they would be implemented and the building permit would have to implement these plans. I realize I'm by 5 minutes, Mr. Chair, and perhaps I'll reserve further comment, but I think that's really the debate before you now, is whether you need to add additional language beyond a condition that would require construction substantially in accordance with the plans.
Thank you. So the concern about excavating the building to be lower than it is, I presume, is a function of overall height and massing, but you're not requesting a height variance, correct?
Correct. And my read of the letters is that there's not a request to reduce the height, it's just a request to clarify the condition. And I think it's a clarification that ultimately makes things actually more confusing.
Fair enough. And your contention, as we understand it, is that by tying it to plans, that would satisfy any concern about where the roof actually is.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's great. Thank you very much. Panel, any questions? Nellie?
I can see that, this new construction, there is a variance number 5, which kind of caught my attention, and we have only 25 centimeters from the west side. And could you clarify why, if it's a new construction, why do you need that, that variance?
And just through you, Mr. You're asking about variance 5, which has the 0.81 from the north lot line and 0.25 from the side west lot line?
Yes, that's the request. I think the member was interested in your justification for those variances.
Yes, and so if the site plan is there, just to view for the panel, thank you. You can see there's a frame garage that has the 0.81 to the north. It is joined to the dwelling with a sort of a, I'm going to call it a breezeway package, Mr. Chair, and through you to the panel member, that means that technically it forms part of the structure, and so forms part of the dwelling. So the minimum required side yard being 0.9, if this was an accessory structure, it could be less. The main dwelling itself, as you come down, achieves the side yard setback. So it's just in respect of the garage area, and it's treated as part of the dwelling because it's joined.
Right.
And again, through you, Mr. Chair, a condition that would require construction substantially in accordance with the plans would help ensure that those reductions only apply to that garage accessory structure and not to the balance of the dwelling.
Okay, thank you. Nellie, is that okay? Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Do we have another speaker? Okay.
Hello, Dennis Wood. You have been unmuted to speak.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Mr. Wood, sorry, don't mean to interrupt, but you're kind of breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry.
There you go. That sounds better. Could we have your name and address, please?
Yes, of course. It's Dennis Wood. I am a lawyer with the law firm of Wood Bull LLP. And my address, or the address of the firm, is, let me just get this right. It's 65 Queen Street West, Suite 1400.
Great, thank you. Okay, you have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. I have filed 2 letters with you in regards to this matter. I act on behalf of the owners of 424 Lakefront, which is the property to the west. I previously acted for 424 and the property at 430, which is the property to the east. There have been, as the chair has noted, extensive proceedings time, culminating in not one but 2 decisions of the team.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wood. I'm sorry for interrupting, sir. You're breaking up. We're not quite catching everything you're saying. I don't know what to suggest.
Let me see where I can try to solve that problem. Sorry, if you could stop the clocks. I'm not kidding. Just see whether I can. Does that help?
Sounds better.
Okay, let's try that.
Yes, that sounds much better. Thank you.
Good. I just put on a headset and mic. All right. I did introduce myself, the client, client at 424 Lakefront. I previously acted for the property owner at 430. There was an unsuccessful application to the committee and 2 unsuccessful appeals by the applicant before I think 2 hearings before the TLAP. The main question that was of interest to my clients had to do with the setbacks, the setback of the proposed building in relationship to the setbacks of the buildings on both sides. The TLAB set as a basic standard that the building that's being proposed should be the average of the setbacks on both sides. That was intended to be respectful to each built form, and it inferentially had to do with the views that those 2 adjacent properties or abutting properties would enjoy. Now, this application is much better. The architect has been much more sensitive. This is a new architect, new team, I guess, with Mr. Bronskill involved, to our clients' concerns. The issue here has to do with ensuring that what is on offer before the committee is what is delivered when the building permit is issued and the building is constructed. Usually the language substantially in accordance fits the bill, but just recently I reviewed a decision of one of the courts, in which the word substantially in accordance was given a much more liberal interpretation than I would have expected. So what my client seeks to do is to try to ensure that what is built is what is represented before you. And I would hope the committee would appreciate that. Mr. Bronskill appears to accept that as a reasonable proposition. I will point out to the committee that the problem with this variance application in the long run is once the variance for not fronting on a street is granted, the property is considered to have 4 side yards. And that means that there is no length regulation, no depth regulation that applies. And the side yard setbacks are, as you might know, 1.5 meters or whatever it happens to be. So my clients are very concerned to ensure that the word substantially in accordance with, as opposed to in accordance with, use of the word substantially doesn't result in modifications to the front or the south main wall that do not deliver what is on offer. And in that respect, in the letter that I filed with the committee last week, I included, and I hope that you're able to pull that, Mr. Nadeau is able to pull that letter, that drawing up. I had requested that the committee, as a condition, affix as a condition to the approval, that the front south main wall and the basement be no further to the south lot line than was indicated in the measurements on that exhibit. Yes, here it is here. We could go through to the third. Whoops, it looks like I'm going to run out of my time here.
I'll grant you another minute or so, sir, because we took up time with technical difficulties.
Right. Could you go to the next attachment, please? It's getting smaller and smaller. And to the there you'll see the red line across the property. That's in attachment 2 is the line that indicates the setback that was recommended by the TLAB, and you'll see that this property is south of that in the frontage, but my client has accepted that, but is very concerned that it will no further south. Could I see the next exhibit, please? Our attachment 3. Go down to the bottom. We need to look at. So here, if you can expand that, you will see that there in red are distances to the south main wall of the first, second, and third stories, and then the blue is the distance to the basement structure. In previous applications, there was a proposal to extend the basement and have a walkout. That's been removed gratefully, and my client is just wanting to ensure that the basement, which you'll see is considerably to the south of the south main wall, doesn't intrude any further out. The length of this building, if you take it in total, is something in the order of 29 meters, which is well beyond the 17 to 19 meters of length and depth. So this is the request my client is making falls certainly within the ambit of being quite reasonable, and just wanting to ensure that what is, as I say, is what's being represented will be what is built, and there are no surprises at building permit stage, because I have had the experience on behalf of clients who've negotiated settlements, and when it went to building permit stage, some things happened that were unexpected because details weren't settled at this stage. So I'm simply requesting a level of certainty about those things that Mr. Bronskill's client appears to be prepared to offer.
Great.
Now,
I am going to stop you there, Mr. I'm sorry, Mr. Wood. I am going to stop you there, and because we do have to move on. I think we understand the point you're trying to make. Any questions of Mr. Wood? Sabrina, just for clarity's sake, they're asking for a technical detail in terms of the wording. If the panel were inclined to approve this, and if the panel were going to tie it to plans, is the word substantially versus not substantial an issue?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we always use the term substantially in accordance with.
Okay. Yeah. And if for example, the committee wanted to tie this to all plans, including the site plan, that would then compel the building to be, in the foundation, the excavation to be bound to the site plan.
Yes, again, so it'd be tied to the site plan and elevation plans. Typically, we don't tie them to floor plans.
Right.
But yes, site plan and elevations. And then it would read substantially in accordance with,
Great.
and it would provide the date of the plans.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Mr. Bronskill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we're fully supportive of that approach. I think, as I indicated to you at the conclusion of my remarks, I think we're debating about the level of detail to put into potential conditions. And if I could ask staff's indulgence, Mr. Wood had provided a letter dated January 27th. It's 6 pages. And if staff could go to the second or third page of that letter, and I wanted just to kind of crystallize for you my concern if my client and its architect showed up at the building counter with the conditions that Mr. Wood is recommending, because I don't think any of us either of us are telling you to refuse the variance, and I don't think either of us are saying that we don't want what is shown to the committee to be built. To be clear, what my client is showing is what we would intend to go and get a building permit for, and that's why I took pains in my initial presentation to you to stress that there is no roof over the western terrace, because I know that was a concern to Mr. Wood's client. I'm just trying to see if staff could pull it up. It's a bit of an odd debate that we're having in front of you, but I do have a concern about the degree of specificity in the conditions suggested by Mr. Wood, because they do actually, frankly, read like a legal agreement. And with that degree of specificity, I get nervous about how a buildings examiner interprets the language that we suggest. So for example, that's a condition that's, sorry, if staff could go back up. Thank you. Oh, that's the letter. Thank you. So either of those pages are fine. So the last bullet point, if staff are able to see, it says the basement shall be located below ground. Oh, sorry, that page is fine too. You can stay there. I'll deal with either of those pages. That bullet point there, that's a recommended addition to the condition about building substantially in accordance with, and it's 5 lines long, and it doesn't result in any changes to the building. But we've now got the above ground south main wall shall be set back from the south lot line no less than the bolded main wall line on the context plan and the ground floor plan. And now we've got to add more attachments into the committee of adjustment decision, but then the second floor bay window can extend further out, and we've got to go to 2 more plans and an attachment. I just get very worried about what this adds to a condition when we all agree that the plans show what that condition intends to implement. And the best way for the buildings department to implement this is to have the site plan and the elevations and a condition that would require construction substantially in accordance with those. This type of long condition makes me very nervous when you go and get a building permit. The last thing I'll just say, if staff could just go up 1 page, I'll just give a second example very quickly. At the bottom of the page, there's a shorter condition. The basement shall be located below ground and be set back from the south lot line no less than is shown by the blue distance. We're showing the basement in that location. So this is not a request to change the plans. But when it's added to a condition that says shall be built substantially in accordance with, except it shall be, I think a zoning examiner is going to pick that up and say, well, wait a minute, am I now changing this? And what does below ground mean in the context of a zoning bylaw? And is that related to the definition of grade? What does that mean? How do I interpret that? This attempts to add greater specificity. I actually think it makes it more complicated and more confusing. We all know where the basement is. We all know where it's going to be located. It's on the plans. We agree on the plans. So let's use the standard condition rather than supplementing it and making it more like a legal agreement. So Mr. Chair, that's my concern. I think we all want the same thing. I just get very nervous about what we're putting onto the buildings department staff if we add the bullet points here and in the other letter suggested by Mr. Wood. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Panel, any questions? I think that's clear. Oh, Nellie?
Just a clarification, the latest site plan that we have on file is dated January 24th, 2024. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. I'm looking at our presentation, but I'm just going to stall. Yes, that is correct.
So it's the latest.
Is it? Yes, January 24, 2024. That's the site plan and elevations, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll take this into committee. Comments?
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Brunskill. Comments? I'm going to go to Peter first because he remembers this from previous applications.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I do remember this, and this is a much improved application. The previous one was, we won't get into the merits of the previous one. I think this is a defensible application. It's a large house, but it fits in the pattern of redevelopment that's happening along the beachfront here. And I obviously, with the, there's been agreement among the neighbors that this is generally a satisfactory structure in terms of the setbacks and the view sheds and all that. So I think I commend the applicant and their consultants on getting to this point to where they have basically support of their neighbors. I do agree with the applicant's agent that the standard condition is better. I think these plans are easily understood, and it's just like any other application. I don't think this requires any further language that it does, in my mind, complicate things or would potentially complicate things with getting a building permit down the road. So if my colleagues don't have anything else to say, I'm happy to move a motion for approval subject to urban forestry condition 2, and that the approval be tied to the site plan and substantially in accordance with the site plan and the elevations.
I see TRCA conditions, no?
TRCA is fine.
I thought they had a condition.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
I thought they were okay. Let me see. Oh, a permit. Yeah, they have no objection, but, oh, sorry. Yes, I guess, and the TRCA condition. Pardon me.
Thank you very much. Mr. Reid moves approval with those conditions. Did you want to make a comment, Dylan?
Just a quick comment. I wanted to sympathize with the neighbor's lawyer about being concerned about having a court case that started to change the meaning of substantive. I can understand the concern, but I agree with my colleague that, and I know that this is also a concern of planning, that sort of vague conditions really complicate things. So I think it's best to just go with that and trust the process.
Are you seconding the motion? Okay, motion to approve with the conditions, forestry condition and TRCA condition, moved by Mr. Reid, seconded by Mr. Reid. All in favor? Yeah, I cited the conditions, yes.
Yeah, substantially in accordance with the plans as well, yeah.
Yep.
You got it. Thanks.
Okay, all in favor? Approved, thank you very much. And I would just make a note that this is an instance where the process appears to have worked, where an unacceptable application has gone through a process, and what we have before us was a much more acceptable application. Okay, we move now back to 22. Item number 22. 172 Delaware Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing one and two-story front additions and a rear one-story addition. The existing front walkout stairs and the rear ground level raised wood deck will be demolished. There will be a total of 3 dwelling units, a triplex on this lot. The existing one-story ancillary dwelling will be maintained and unaltered. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a tree location plan, and 5 photographs on the subject property. Cover letter from the agent, decision number A0214/23TEY affecting the subject property. Presentation materials from the owner received January 22nd. Staff report from Urban Forestry, correspondence in opposition from 170 Delaware, and materials in opposition from 170 Delaware.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online as well as 1 speaker in opposition online.
Great, thank you very much. Could we get the agent, please?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Dan Stone. Can you hear me?
Yes, just a little louder, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Certainly. Again, my name is Dan Stone. I do have my camera activated, but audio is fine. I am a registered professional planner representing this application. Similar to the application you just dealt with, this is a resubmission of a revised application that, as with the last application, we would hope that we've made adjustments to the proposal to address concerns in such a manner that the application will find favor with the committee today. And with that, I will go through a bit of an overview of the application and try to stay within the time limit. Next slide, please. Mr. Chair, I'm just sharing with you the air photography showing the subject property, and as you can see, a rather large dwelling unit exists on the property. This is a triplex. My client occupies the main floor of the triplex, and what's proposed is a number of 2 additions where we are seeking some minor variance approvals from the committee. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the application, the original application on this property was submitted to the committee back in March of this year. The decision was made by this committee in May. Application was refused. I need to point out for the committee that the original application included a request for a total of 8 variances. We have revised the application. My client has, as opposed to going through an appeal process, we circled back on the proposal, worked with the architect, and listened to the concerns that were raised by the committee. And I think we've come up with some changes that I think will address the majority of the concerns, and again, hopefully find favor. So the variances are listed on your agenda. Some of them deal with the existing conditions, and I think it's important to point those out. But the variances that we no longer look for relief from relates to the maximum FSI because of zoning bylaw changes. We no longer seek a reduction in the minimum front yard setback, the minimum front yard landscaping component and the maximum elevation. I'll go through the site plan quickly with you, Mr. Chair, and hopefully be able to answer some questions. So the next slide, please. So I think what I'll hopefully at this juncture ask the staff if they can share the existing survey of the property. I should have included this in the presentation, but I think it's important to juxtapose what's proposed against what's on the property now. So if that's possible, Mr. Chair, if staff could bring up the existing survey for the property. I think it's part of the package.
Hang on a sec.
Yes. Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. I think you might need to zoom in a little bit, but I want to point out a couple of really important things. First of all, the concrete block garage at the back of the property, it's referenced in the submission letter we have from the neighbor to the south, and I'll speak to that later, but that's an example of an existing condition. In between the house itself and the block garage, you have you have a concrete patio area that you will see and a covered frame deck and a wooden structure. And I've got a slide that will show you that this entire area has wooden structural connection from the house back to the garage. And that is going to be removed as part of this process and actually provide an opportunity for some landscape open space in the rear yard. And I'll get to that next. If we can move to the front of the property, another element of the existing condition, you see the front wall of 170 and you see the front wall of the subject property. And I want to point out those large columns which are found at the covered porch at the front of the property. And then you have steps leading down to the concrete walkway. And then I point out the basement entrance. That's an existing condition getting down to the basement, and that's going to be removed through this process and replaced with some significant additional landscaping in the front yard. So I'm pointing that out to you, Mr. Chair, and committee members to explain to the panel. The result of this process will involve an increase in landscape space both in the front and in the back. So I'll ask you to, oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm running out of time. With your indulgence, I'd like to proceed and just finish my remarks with my presentation.
Please do.
So the next slide. Thank you, staff. This shows you the additions at the front and the additions at the rear. So you have a one-story addition at the north side of the property. Basically over top of that covered porch area that I described to you, and then a two-story addition on the south side abutting 170. And you can see that existing walkout to be replaced and removed and replaced with green space. At the back, if we could scroll back to the back, you'll see a proposed one-story mudroom addition to the rear of the property, and all of the wooden structure is going to be removed and replaced with at-grade green space, which will improve the aesthetic and the usability of that rear yard area. Next slide, please. And that's an existing view from the back laneway, Mr. Chair, showing the concrete block garage that we looked at the survey, and you can see the wooden structure associated with the connection from the brick dwelling to the garage. Next slide, please. And I've taken the liberty of just blowing up the front elevation here, Mr. Chair, because I think this is important to the committee's consideration. So we talked about the existing condition. That's the left-hand side of your screen. And I'm pointing out to you that basement entrance that we went over, and the walkway, the concrete porch and large pillars being replaced with the addition through part of the porch section. So that built form goes beyond the front wall of the house, but it is a major structural built form that does impact the streetscape. So that's existing and proposed. Next slide, please. And existing and proposed, again, this is the front facade. So you can see those two pillars associated with the covered porch and the walkway steps down, and up top of the covered porch, you'll see a screen door leading from the second floor apartment out to what is probably considered to be a pretty unsafe patio there, as there's no railings, and it's got some structure around the patio. On the right-hand side, Mr. Chair and panel, you'll see the artist renderings of what things will look like at the end of the project.
I am going to ask you to wrap up if you can, please.
Okay, so next slide, please. I just wanted to point out, generally down the street, this is a photograph taken of 152 Delaware, not too far down the street, same side. My client has been inspired by what's happened here. You can certainly appreciate the landscaping that's taken place in the front. Most of that is within the municipal boulevard. We're looking to achieve a similar type of improvement to the streetscape in this particular location, working with Public Works, of course. And the walkway will be also include some permeable paving to assist with the purpose of the landscaping in that location. So I just wanted to point that out, Mr. Chair, as something that has inspired my client to make the investment in the property with these additions and improve the streetscape. So with that, I will wrap up, and I'm available to answer any questions that the committee or the panel may have.
Thank you. I think we'll hold questions until we hear from the next speaker.
Hello, Anne. You have been unmuted to speak.
Oh, thank you very much. My name is Ann Ball, and I live next door to 172 Delaware. I live at 170 Delaware, so I'm directly to the south of the building.
Okay.
I'm not going to take a lot of your time because I know you've got a lot on your agenda and a lot of people to hear from. But my main concern is it's an apartment building, basically, that takes up most of the lot to the north of me. And I'm just concerned with extending, putting on an addition will basically be adding another wall. So it'll block there's my bay window on the second floor. And then on the first floor, when I look out, I'll see another wall. So that's my concern about the loss of light into my house. It's already, sort of walled in. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Any questions? No? Okay, Mr. Stone, can you speak to that, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. If we could, if the staff can just scroll back to the pictures taken from the windows, and I'll say, Mr. Chair, that we certainly appreciate the neighbors' concerns with respect to this project. I would hope that the investment my client's making in the property to improve its overall appearance and for the property should be appreciated. But if you look at, I was pointing out to you this, what you're seeing from the window here is the pillar and structure that forms the canopy over top of the covered porch. So the addition at this particular point is not the full extent. It won't go out to the extent of that post. But granted, it will extend, and you will be able to see it to some extent from this vantage point from the window. If you go to the next picture from the window on the main floor, yeah, this is the existing pillar that I spoke of. That I talked about the built form of my client's property already in a condition where it juts out in front of the property at 170. So a certain amount of structural intrusion is taking place under the existing condition, and we would hope that the addition is not going to impede too much further on that existing condition. And as I mentioned, the project itself in its totality is going to be a significant improvement to the streetscape and have a significant improvement to the amount of green space on the property, both front and back. So with that, I appreciate the concerns raised by Ms. Ball, but I would hope that the committee would consider my thoughts and deliberate accordingly.
Great, thank you very much. Panel, any questions of the agent? Nellie?
I have a question in regards to variance number 2, which is, I think it's the depth variance, which is pretty significant at this point, right? So the existing building is 23 meters, which is over the permitted of 19 already. So my question is, what's the point of adding this madron, which basically extends the building even further? And it's only one store addition. So can you please elaborate on that?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question. The purpose of that mudroom addition is simply to replace the existing entrance to the basement unit, which is awkwardly located along the side of the driveway, and it provides a more usable, functional space with which to get down to the basement unit. I think it's important to point out that the increase in depth is should be considered in the context of both the front and the back, where you've got, as I mentioned earlier, when you consider the pillars at the front and the covered porch, from a structural perspective, it's not part of the dwelling per se, as defined in the zoning bylaw. Similar to the existing structure in the back, where you have the stairwell. Its impact, I don't believe, in my professional opinion, its impact is not great, given what's existing on the property now.
We just,
I understand, sorry.
Sorry, go
Just
ahead.
as it's access to the basement, not to the ground floor?
It'll
It's
be
not
access to
clear
the
from
ground
the
floor, but there's a
drawings.
split. There's a split that you can see there that leads up or down.
Okay, what's the main entrance to the basement? Is it from the front?
You'll be able to get to it from the front and from this entrance as well.
Thank you.
Just so we're clear here, so I'm just looking at your site plan. That mudroom looks like it's 2.72 meters additional depth.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if
Am I right? I'm just trying to read that properly. I'm looking at your site plan, and the dimension on the extension to the rear, the mudroom, I guess you're calling it, looks to me to be 2.72 meters.
yes, that's correct.
Okay, so just to be clear, so when we look at the variance, you're asking for a depth of 27.2, so the existing building is almost 25 meters. Correct my math, guys, if I'm wrong. Okay, but I'm more interested in just how far the rear is going, as that's the area of concern. And I just want to clarify that the mudroom off the back is that dimension.
Mr. Chair, the dimensions are correct, and I think the way that the zoning examiner has calculated the existing depth of the building is at 19 meters in total. Because you're not coming out to the extent of the front pillar on the front porch, and the stairs at the back are not also included.
Okay.
All over the wooden structure at the back. Yeah.
Okay.
But your reading of the dimensions are correct, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. And just to be clear, when you were here before, you were seeking a 0% rear yard landscaping, and you've now increased that to 23%.
Correct. The wooden structure at the back was going to remain in place. We've revised that, and we've also eliminated the existing concrete steps to the basement at the front of the building, and proposed to landscape that area.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Dylan?
Just a question. So, just referencing the neighbor's concern about the view from the ground floor, am I correct in understanding that where the current porch is now, you plan on the, if you're looking at the front, on the side closest to the neighbor who was concerned, you're planning to extend the actual structure out a little bit, but then you're also going to take out the pillar? Is that for the rest of the porch? Is that a correct understanding?
That is correct.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Any further questions? Okay. Thank you very much, sir. We're going to take it into committee. Anyone have
Thank you.
any thoughts or comments on this application? Peter?
Thanks, Chair. I'll start just with some comments. I was on the previous panel when this was refused unanimously. And there have been some, I think, good faith improvements based on the comments that the applicant was left with last time. The main thing being the improvement to the soft landscaping on the site. And both in the front and back, there have been material improvements, and I think that's good. this is a very large building with its existing footprint, and I think that's part of the challenge. But I believe that the new built elements that are being proposed, which are around 200 square feet total, I think they're reasonable to make this a functional building with good-sized units, and I think it fits in, especially with more substantive redevelopment that's gone on immediately behind it. So I'm going to be supporting it.
Dylan?
I largely agree with my colleague. I hear the concerns from the neighbor about the view, but on the ground floor, I think it'll actually be better because she won't be seeing the pillar. And the applicant has made an effort to not extend that side as much so that the neighbor's view isn't as constrained, which I think is thoughtful. And otherwise, I feel like this is a creative way of making a triplex, which is something that's very valuable in the city, into something that's a bit more functional and also better. It'll be a better frontage with the landscaping improvements in the front, and a little bit of landscaping in the back, which will also be helpful, and which actually may make the neighbor's view a little bit better than it is now at the back. So overall, I think it's a creative response to the need and the situation, and the feedback from the previous decision, and they're all essentially quite minor. There's a lot of minor things that do make a difference, so I'm going to support it as well.
Can I ask you to make a motion, please?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve these variances with, I think we have forestry 1 and 3. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. The seconder, Peter? Okay, moved by Mr. Reid, seconded by Mr. Reid, with forestry condition 1 and 3. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much.
Can I ask for a 5-minute break?
Sure. We'll take 5 minutes. Thank you. Peter, you're...
No, that's okay. Item 23, the next one.
You're the next one? Okay, great. We'll get to you next.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we're back with item number 23. This is a consent to sever one lot into 6 residential lots to create basically 2 sets of 4 townhomes with various variances being requested. Did I say 2038, 2040 Berkeley? The committee has before it the following materials: copy of plan of surveys, combined site plan, floor plans, and elevations, copy of the draft R plan of survey, covering letter from the agent, arborist report, presentation materials from the agent, presentation materials from, well, I have 2 different agents, I'm not sure which one it is. We have email correspondence from Heritage Services, Metrolinx, community planning, and engineering. We have support correspondence from 231 Milan, 224 Berkeley.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can you just turn on your, there you go, and we'll have to start over.
Damn it. I apologize.
Thought it sounded a little quiet.
I apologize. Beg the indulgence of my colleagues. I'm very sorry. We move on to item number 23, 238 to 240 Berkeley. This is a consent to obtain consent to sever the lot into 6 residential lots and to create a new easement rights of way for servicing purposes. And the application is to create 2 banks of 4 townhomes with various variances associated with those. The committee has before it copy plan of survey, combined site plan, floor plans, and elevations, copy of draft R plan of survey, copy of a letter from Andrew Ferenchik, the agent, arborist report, presentation materials from Eric Reitz, agent, and presentation materials again from Andrew Ferenchik, the agent. We have email correspondence from Heritage Planning. We have Metrolinx correspondence, and we also have material from Community Planning. We also have a staff report from Engineering and Construction Services. There is support material from 231 Milan, 224 Berkeley, and 221 Ontario Street. And we have the agent with us today.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we do have the agent here in person. We also have someone online that wants to speak in support.
Great, thanks very much. In support.
Yes, that's what I have written down.
Okay. All right, sir, welcome. Good afternoon. If you could give us your name and address, please.
How's it going, Mr. Chair? My name is Eric Retz. I am a planner at W&D Associates, and I'm the agent acting on the file.
Great, thank you very much.
Sorry, my address is 170 Sumac Street, Toronto.
I wonder, we could probably benefit from an overview of this application, please?
Absolutely. We'll just skip over the next slide, if that's okay. This slide, this is just an overview of the subject site and its context. You can see adjacent to the north, 3-story townhomes, a 10-story approval further north, Dundas Street East, and the 505 streetcar that's also located to the north. Just outside of this pocket, you can see existing high-rise apartments. In the bottom left of the screen, that is the future location of the Moss Park Station along the Ontario line. Next slide, please. These are two pictures from street level, on the left being Berkeley Street, on the right being Milan Street. You can see today the site is currently vacant, and it was previously developed by two-story semi-detached homes that were demolished in April 2022. Next slide, please. These are some surrounding context photos. On the left, that's the north adjacency, and that's occupied by three-story townhomes. On the right, this is located directly across the street on Berkeley. Now, I've included that example as it very much aligns with what we're proposing today, being that 3 to 4 story townhomes with the internal garage. The difference being here, when that was constructed, the sloped driveways were permitted, whereas today they're not. So that can explain the extra little bit of height that we're asking for today. Making sure to clarify that what we're proposing today is actually zoning compliant in terms of overall height. Next slide, please. On the left here, we have a use that's located directly across the street on Milan, and this is a 3.5 story detached home. On the right, we have the view looking south on Milan Street, and you can see the subject site on the left of that photo, and further in the distance, some more townhomes and the Moss Park apartments in the background. Next slide, please. Just a quick policy overview. The subject site is located within the neighborhood's designation, and the 4-story townhomes we're proposing today is a permitted use within that designation. It's zoned residential R within zoning bylaw 569/2013, and it also is identified within the Moss Park protected major transit station area, where it is prescribed a minimum site density of 0.9 FSI. Next slide, please. To get into the proposal itself, today we are requesting the severance of 2 through lots to create 6 new lots, 3 fronting Berkeley, 3 fronting Milan Street. Each lot will contain a 4-story townhome containing 3 bedrooms, so family-sized units ranging from 176 to 186 square meters. Each will have a garage and 1 parking spot. And across the subject site, we're proposing 4 easements, all relating to site drainage. Next slide, please. This is an overview of the site plan. Starting in the center here, we also submitted a revised presentation, but I realize this is the former one, but the one we followed up with, it was colorized, so it was a little bit easier to decipher the proposed uses on site. But in the center, those are the backyards, and there's an extensive amount of soft landscaping that's there. On the left, that is the Milan Street townhomes with a uniform relationship to the street. On the right, the Berkeley Street townhomes, which have a more staggered relationship to the street, and this was done at the request of urban design staff to match the existing setback pattern on the street. Next slide, please. These are some floor plans. We can skip over these just in the essence of time. Sorry, could you go back to the elevations? We can stop 1 slide forward, please. The other way, sorry. There we go, stop right there. Thank you. So the top here, this is elevation from Berkeley Street, and on the bottom on Milan Street. In our opinion, from this figure, you can tell that what we're proposing today is very much in line with the heights of the adjacent uses to the north and the south. Next slide, please. Again, just in the essence of time, I won't get into each of the variances that we're requesting today. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. Just stopping on this slide, just a quick overview that we've worked extensively with staff up to this point, urban design staff, ECS, and even had correspondence from Heritage, just showing that we've worked with them to address their comments, and to this date, there are no objections. Next slide, please. This is an overview of the existing and approved lot fabric, just to show what we're proposing today is very much in line with what's been approved. In green there, that's approved, and that's just across the street. If you can skip to the next slide, please. This is one of those examples that was outlined in green. This is 263 Berkeley Street. just showing, this was an example of a consent application that created a lot in the rear to front Poulette Street at 4 stories with variances that are very much in line with what we're requesting today, and this was approved by the committee in 2022. Next slide, please. Another example located directly across the street. This involved the severance of 2 existing through lots to create 3 new lots to the rear, which would front Poulette Street. This was approved in 2017, and again, judging from that chart there, what we're proposing today is very much in line with what was approved there. Next slide, please. Just to summarize, in our opinion, the proposed development is consistent with the emerging and planned character of the Moss Park neighborhood. We're proposing to add 6 new family-sized dwellings to a site that is currently vacant in downtown Toronto. And we've worked extensively with staff to address their comments up to this point, and with the community even holding a Zoom meeting containing 20 people where the feedback was quite positive. Also, we do have, I believe it was 3 letters of support, so I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And just for the record, I think I misspoke at the beginning. I talked about 2 banks of 4 units. It should be 2 banks of 3 4-story townhomes.
Correct.
Just to correct the record. All right, panel. We do have someone speaking in support. Do we want to go to that person first?
Hello, Eric Lamoth. You have been unmuted to speak.
Hello. I'm the neighbor directly north of the bank on Berkeley Street. I'm fine with the development. The developers have been very receptive to our questions. They've been easy to work with, and I think it's going to be a great addition to fill in an eyesore in our neighborhood. I don't really have any more comments beyond saying that I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. All right. Are there any questions of the agent? Peter?
Thanks, and thanks for your presentation. I note that you're under on front yard soft landscaping. Would you be willing, as a condition, to do the driveways with permeable pavers?
Yes, I spoke to the owner previously today, and he was okay with that.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Nellie.
Just, you mentioned that you communicated with the neighbors and you received positive response. Were there any concerns that neighbors raised?
Through the owner who held that Zoom meeting, who's actually just over there, we did not, to my knowledge, experience or hear any negative feedback. I think they're all really excited about seeing something developed on this site. It's currently vacant, a pile of dirt, so I think they're all really excited about it.
Great, thank you very much. Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to have this on public record. So I'm going to ask our presenter to present the agenda page. So the notice that went out, that's on your screen. So currently the way this reads is that we're actually just creating 2 lots. So what we will do is, for the notice of decision, it won't make any changes to what's before you right now, but it'll identify each of the conveyed lots, right? So you'll see conveyed part 1, conveyed part 2, conveyed part 3, and then so it'll list it out 6 ways, and it'll reflect. So I'll ask the presenter to present on the screen presentation materials. And then it'll, if you can scroll down to page 7. So it's going to identify each of the colored lots. Okay? So it's exactly the same as what is before you. The notice of decision just will read different than the notice that went out. Okay?
Sorry, do you want the presenter to do that?
No. It's
that
on the
presenter.
Screen. Yes, it's on the screen.
I was thinking
Sorry.
the poor guy's going to have to
City
read
staff.
all this stuff.
No, city staff. So I just want to put that on public record that that's how the notice will be written for the notice of decision. Okay.
That's great. Thanks for the clarification.
And all minor variance application stays as is. Nothing gets changed.
Would you like us, if we'll go into committee, but would you like us to bundle the consent and the variances together or separate?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can have one motion for all applications and then just stipulate the conditions versus consent and minor variances.
Okay. Okay, great. We're in committee. Anyone want to take that motion on? Or sorry, I'm assuming no discussion. If anyone has any comments, thoughts on this application, frankly, it seems like a pretty good one, particularly an infill in this neighborhood, consistent with the urban fabric and the built form, and highly appropriate density for this particular neighborhood. So, if you agree, I'm going to ask Peter, with his experience, to take a crack at this one.
I'll take it, sure. Thanks, Chair. I wanted to commend the applicant that it's extremely rare that we get a consent to create 6 lots that have basically zero opposition. So what you've proposed is obviously appropriate, and you've done some outreach. So my respect to the applicant on this. I also didn't see any urban forestries, but I guess that they haven't come in. But with the planting, usually they have the condition 3 for this. But anyway, it's not in the package. So I'll move approval of the consent applications and the minor variance applications. And the only condition I have is from development engineering. Is that correct?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Chair, the consent application will have our standard conditions imposed as well as ECS.
Great, thanks. And then for the variances, for each of the variances, I'd like to add the condition that the driveways be constructed with permeable pavers.
Okay. Great. So we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Gogan? All those in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We move on to item number 24, 240 Glenholme. This is an application to construct a 1-story ancillary building containing a garden suite with roof dormers in the rear yard. The existing garage will be demolished. Committee has before it a copy of the minutes of the September 6, 2023 public hearing, copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, support materials from the agent, email correspondence from Transportation Services, and staff reports from Urban Forestry and Transportation Services. We have opposition correspondence from 295 Louder and 242 Glenholme, materials in opposition from 242 Glenholme.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online and one speaker in opposition online.
Great, thank you. Could we get the agent, please?
Hello, Ida, you have been unmuted to speak.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owner of 240 Glenholme.
All right, Ms. Evangelista, if you could give us a presentation, that would be great, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So in front of you, the application that you have in front of you is for a 1-story ancillary structure, which will be used as a garden suite. Now, this is a corner lot, and because it is a corner lot, the front of the garden suite will be facing the flankage road of Millerson Avenue. So because of this, it's created several variances. Now, and the variances being variance 5, 6, 7, and 8. The 45-degree angle along with the height. So just to go through it real quickly. So because this is on a corner lot, the siding of the actual structure should face, the front of it should face the flankage street, which is Millerson. So because of that, it has, triggered these 45-degree angles. However, we do, if you see from my submission, I believe it is page, I want to say 3, And you'll see that, you know, from the various elevations, we have the south elevation, which is the front. And you'll see that we have 45-degree angles with dormers. Now, in this particular situation, we do have an overall height of 6 meters. So now what this has done is there was a garage on the property, albeit it was a little further east. So what we've done is we've taken it to the very rear of the property, very westerly portion of the property. We've also removed the garage portion and the driveway so that we can create more landscaping, and that is one variance we do not have. So we do have the 45-degree angle on the roof. We have set it back somewhat in the rear of the property so that it does allow for additional landscaping. Now the height. So okay, so if we take a look at the front of the house, the land slopes up, right? So at the front of the property, we have a grade of approximately 99.50 and going up to about 99.77. So at the front of the property, to where the 45-degree angle starts, we have 4 meters, and then the 45-degree angle then commences and goes to 6 meters. At the back of the property, from the grade to where the 45-degree angle starts, it's at a height of 3.74, and then at 3.74 meters, then the angular plane starts. There is a dormer at the back because there is a mechanical room. It's attic space, and there is a mechanical room up in the attic space. But this is just a one floor. Now, 295 Louder, I did go through their letter, and I know they're concerned about privacy. And we are amenable to, because there is a dormer and that's where the bedroom will be, there has to be another form of egress, so there has to be a window there under OBC. However, we are open if they would like an opaque window, we're more than amenable to do so. So in closing, I would just like to state that, you know, the Transportation Department has reviewed it. They're satisfied. They have no concerns regarding the application. Planning has no concerns with the application. I understand 242 does have some concerns with the fear of the shadowing and overlook and whatnot. But as I mentioned, and as I've gone through the different heights, the elevations, the 45-degree plane, there's just the dormer back there. So the front on Glenholme is east. They're east facing. So the light will come from the front and go around Millerson Way and go west. So I respectfully submit that I don't feel that there will be much more shadowing than what trees or his home and the neighboring homes would create. So I am open to any questions that you may have. In closing, I respectfully submit that what we're proposing is desirable and appropriate use for this portion of the lands. And I would like to add, it is in the city, close to TTC and subway, and the intent of future growth this is in the direction of future growth.
Great, thank you very much. I think we'll hold questions until we hear from the neighbor.
Hello, Gerardo. You have been unmuted to speak.
Okay, my name is Gerardo Capocci, 242 Glenholme Avenue, and I have a few concerns. First of all, the garage was removed when they put the addition onto the back of the home. And the garage is very close to where the addition is. I sent some pictures because I have a bit of concern regarding what they did there. They brought in an excavator and they excavated out the addition. And when they did that, they got a little bit too close to my fence. I sent some pictures along, so you could see a view of the backyard. You could see my view facing south and a view from the street. Yes, that would be my backyard. And then there's a view of the, yeah, that's right. That's what I look at. You got the sun rises on the, I guess, in the east, and it goes right across the sky and it sets on, there's sun all day long. The garage was, you can see it now. They kind of damaged my fence when they took down the garage and they replaced it with some plywood. That doesn't affect me. And the garage was very low. It was a very low garage, flat roof. So that doesn't affect me. But what they did do is they got a little bit too close. And now what's happening is the soil is starting to wash away. And it's actually gone past the fence. It's on my side. And it's actually a foot onto my side. And that creates a hazard for anybody walking down my walkway. They could end up in the hole there. So I suggest that maybe some soil engineer or something take a look, because I think it needs some kind of shoring or some kind of what's that called when they put up retaining wall. And that's why I believe that the second paragraph in the public hearing notice, we should maintain that 0.762 meter distance because of this, because of maybe they have to put up a retaining wall or something. It has to be done there. Paragraph 7, I think there's an error there, because the way that it reads, it should read towards the north lot line, because the south is a street and it does not require that 45-degree angle. According to, I tried to read the bylaw for that, and it says the side facing the street, which would be the south side, does not require it. So I think it's just an error, and they meant to say the north line. On that would be on paragraph 7. But my biggest concern really is the paragraph 8 of the public hearing notice, where it states that the maximum permitted height of an ancillary building containing a garden suite is 4 meters. This one has a proposed height of 6 meters. Now, the reason why I even purchased this property, this was the first property that I ever purchased. I was very young. I bought it in 1986. And I bought it because of all that sunlight that was just going through that backyard. I thought it was amazing. Like, it was beautiful. And I always had this dream that I was going to retire there one day. And I was going to have my fruit trees and my flower gardens and my grandchildren running around. Like that was always my dream. But now if they go ahead and build, this is 20 feet. 6 meters is just under 20 feet. That's going to kill most of the sunlight there. It's going to kill most of it. Like, I'll have nothing left there. So I think in this case, I think we really need to enforce that 4-meter height. Actually, I wouldn't like nothing there, but I mean, if they are allowed that, well, there's nothing much that I can do about that, I guess. But it was never there before. I never had an unobstructed view. There was never anything there. You could see where the old carport was, and now what they are proposing is right in the middle of my backyard.
Okay, sir, I'm going to, did you want to wrap up, or is that it?
No, if you want to look at the picture, the third picture showing the actual site, I'd like to show you something. So just so that we're the third picture, the one that's taken from the street, right there. Okay, so then you could see there, you could see where they've put the 2 pieces of plywood. That is right by where they put the addition. And that's right by my deck and right by my tree. So that doesn't affect me at all, where the old structure used to be. But then what you see there after that, that's always been open. Yeah, that's where the old carport used to be. They had to knock it down because they had no choice because they had an excavator there. And that's why they had to knock it down.
Okay, sir, you've gone over your time considerably. I'm going to stop you there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Panel, any questions? Nope. Anyone else? Okay, we'll have Ms. Evangelista back, please.
I would like to say, Mr. Chair, members, for Gerardo at number 242, when applications go through the building permit stage, they have to provide a lot grading and drainage plan. And it's taken quite seriously. And if the building department deems that a retaining wall has to be put in place, then they'll make a notation in that regard, and it has to be done. There are inspectors that visit the property quite regularly. So now, I would like to add that, we have an angle on our roof on the north, we have it on the west, and we have it on the east. We have a dormer on the east, the west, and the north. We don't have it on the south, which is the front of the house. So the height does go to the ridge at the flat portion. The overall height does go to the ridge of the flat portion of the roof of the garden suite. However, as I mentioned, because there are the roof line does slope 45 degrees, and it slopes, and that slope starts at the front, it starts at 4 meters, and at the back, it starts at 3.74 meters. So it will allow for sun, air, and the setbacks will allow for maintenance. I'd like to apologize to the neighbor on behalf of the owners, and I will definitely bring it to their attention about the fence. And I'll make sure that the two do talk and try to remediate that for them. So again, the front of the house, it faces east. So sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And because the way the garden suite is located and the way the roof line is, and that's why the roof line is the way it is, so that the integration to the flankage street, to the neighboring properties, isn't as offensive. It isn't as, it's not like a blockade. It allows for sunlight to penetrate. So in closing, I respectfully submit that what we're proposing is very gentle and does fit. It also has many characteristics of the homes in the neighborhood so that it will fit the neighborhood. I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Dylan.
So I mean, the key point of contention is kind of the height. And I'm just wondering why it's necessary to have the sort of, like, it's a one-story garden suite, why it's necessary to have the peaked roof and the dormers. That seems to be the key point of contention and also a lot of the variances. I was wondering if you'd answer that specifically.
Mm-hmm. So through you, Mr. Chair, the reason why it is designed as such is because the mechanical room is up in the loft, right? So it's to allow for some space to be able to work on in the mechanical room. The furnace and AC and also the water tank. Everything is being placed up in the attic area. And it is just a small portion up in the attic area. The dormers are created typically for the design of garden suites. Planning like to see more of a slope on these garden suites so that the integration with the homes and the existing home on site, they just integrate a lot better and it's not as harsh. So the dormers just create some light and access to the home under the OBC rules.
I mean, there are windows at the front and on the side facing the house. I mean, would it be possible to eliminate the dormers so that you can get more light going through to the neighbor?
Where the dormer is located at the back, that's where the mechanical room is.
Yeah, but the other two dormers.
I would have to contact. I can't at this make a change to the variances because then, if the height relates to the ridge of the roof line, right? So what we've done is we've made the dormers just in unison, just for symmetry, and to allow for space inside in the attic space. I could reduce. I would have to put this on pause, and I would have to contact the owner.
Okay.
Because through you, Mr. Chair, I would again like to emphasize. So the 45-degree angular plane, because it does say towards starting from a height of 4 meters, right? That the 45-degree angular plane is to start. And that's what we've done. The only reason why these variants have come into play is because it's facing a side street. And if we were to turn the house and we would create the 45-degree plane that would face the existing home, we wouldn't have that variance.
Okay, you'll need to pick a lane here. So we have one more application after you.
Yes,
if you'd like us
which
to
is me.
if you'd like us to stand down for a moment for you to consult with your client, you would have maybe 10 or 15 minutes to do so. Otherwise, we will proceed. I mean, it's kind of your call how you'd like to proceed.
Well, I would like the opportunity to just ask the owners. As I said, because through you, Mr. Chair, if I make a change now and it might jeopardize going to when we go to building permit stage if something is incorrect.
Okay. Now, if you would like to take a few minutes now, oddly enough, you are the agent on the next file too. So maybe what we will do to try and accommodate you, we will take a 10-minute break, and you can do what you need to do, and we'll reconvene in 10 minutes and deal with this and the last item.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I just got a message. So the two dormers on the side, we can remove them.
Okay.
If that satisfies the member, we can remove the dormers. I'm just confirming.
Now, does that change any of your variances?
East and west.
Sorry, does that change any of your, Ida, does that change any of your variances?
It does. Actually, Mr. Chair, the variances will remain as is. The variances will remain as is because it's still discussing the angular plane,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
So, and we want it, and we do want to keep the angular plane starting at 4 meters, right? I can, if we can, put in wording in the condition that we remove. I unfortunately cannot remove the dormer at the rear, which is the north, because that's the attic space. And that's where the mechanical room is. But we can remove the dormer on the east and west.
Okay.
That satisfies me.
Okay.
But the variances remain same.
Through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps maybe we can reflect this in the purpose of application. So it would read to construct a one-story ancillary building containing a garden suite, in brackets, with a rear roof dormer.
Yeah, that's fine. Would we need a condition to buttress that? Would we need a condition to buttress that, because the drawings show 3 dormers?
The situation here is then you can't tie them to the plans.
Because they have the 3 dormers.
Because they have unless you tie them to the plans and say that the other 2 dormers are not permitted.
I think that might be the best way to do it. I mean, if this is what your interest is.
Or it would be that the other 2 dormers would be removed, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm just, we just want to double check you're satisfied, no other variance?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, what about variance number 7?
Yeah, there's the angular plane for the
About
sidewall.
Side south lot line? Should it read side north lot line?
So it's the 45, number 7, it's the side wall. Does that still penetrate the 45-degree angular plane if you remove the dormers?
On the south, we can't remove the dormer on the south. We can remove the dormer on the east and on the west.
So which variance is related to?
But I have the dormers. There's no variances related to the dormers.
I know, but we're just wondering, want to make sure that, we don't have to remove a variance with respect to the side main wall. So on the south side.
Right.
So you still.
So what?
You still need that variance?
I do. I still need variances 5, 6, 7, and because typically the garden suite should face the house, right? So because the garden suite doesn't face the house, it faces the street. That's why the 45-degree angular plane. That's why we have those variances. But the dormers itself, I don't have any variances relating to the dormers.
Okay.
So I still need to keep 5, 6, 7. I can't take that chance removing anything or touching any of these variances. If we want to add as a condition with the proviso that dormers on the east and the west walls are removed, or alternatively, through you, Mr. Chair, to staff, if we say tie it to plans dated, and I can get a revised, I can get you revised plans by hopefully end of day today.
No,
sure.
I think that's a little bit too complicated. I think what we'll try and do is just make a condition around the dormers.
Yes, I agree, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Through you, Mr. Chair, again, I go back to variance number 7, and I just need the applicant to confirm whether it's towards the side south lot line or north. No, number 8 is about the height.
Yeah.
It's number 7.
8 is the height.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the zoning review. It speaks to the
Right,
east.
because-
It speaks to the east front, it speaks to the west rear, but the zoning review actually does say north side. But in our notice, it says south side, and that's what the resident was asking.
So it should be north in our stuff? Oh.
1 second. But the angular plane is on the south wall. It's not on the north wall.
We just need you to confirm, and then we leave it as is.
Yeah, 1 second.
If I may, it seems like it should maybe be both, no? South and north? Like it's, because it says at the end towards the side lot lines. There's a plural on lines. So to me, the intent would be that you protect for the angular plane on both sides.
But we can't have it on the on the south side.
So is there an error in the public notice? Should number 7 be north?
I'm just double checking.
Okay. Ida, do you need a little bit of time to figure this out?
Yes, I do.
Why don't we take 10 minutes? Why don't we take 10 minutes, since you're the last item as well, so why don't we take 10 minutes and make sure we have this right?
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. I'll be right back.
Okay, thank you.
It looks a lot like they're gonna build a mezzanine in this thing to me. It's so tall and they've got so much air, like volume. It looks, and yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you're there.
I'm back.
How did you make out?
I can't believe I can't believe 3 sets of eyes and we all missed it. Number 7 should be north lot line.
Okay. There you go.
Okay. All right. We are okay to remove the dormers on both the east and the west side. And the angular plane will remain.
Okay. So the only amendment to the variances is number 7, which we replace south with north.
Correct.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you for taking the time for clarifying that. That helps us. Is there anything final?
Thank you for allowing me to do so.
Is there anything, we're going to take it into committee. Is there anything further you'd like to add?
No, Mr. Chair. We work with planning staff. Planning staff are in support. This is in a highly sought after area. It's in the city. It's close to TTC. And I believe with these changes now, the owner of 242 will be satisfied. And as I mentioned, I will also have the owner of 240 have a conversation with them regarding the fencing and so on, and the grading.
Great. Thanks very much. Okay, we're going into committee. Any further thoughts to those that we've been chatting about?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just for clarity, so the purpose of application will be revised to reflect a rear roof dormer, and then variance number 7 is amended to read towards the side north lot line.
Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, can I get, Dylan, you want to take a crack at this?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at it. So just to introduce, first of all, I think that as a general principle, this is a very positive development, providing a small rental unit in a desirable location. And also as a corner property facing the street, that makes it even more appealing. So in generally, I'm very supportive of this concept. The concern was the massing. This seemed to be an excessively large mass for a one-story garden suite. And I think that the solution we've come to will help address that problem and help address the concerns of the neighbor. So I would like to move that we accept this application as amended with the condition that it be tied to plans with the removal of the east and west dormers.
Perfect. That's
also, great. I think we need forestry condition 3 and a transportation condition.
Okay, that's great. Do I have a seconder on that? Mr. Gogan? Okay, we have a motion to approve with the conditions as stated, seconded by Mr. Gogan. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you very much. And you are with us for the next file. So just hang on a second. This is number 25, 329 Strathmore Boulevard. And this is an application to legalize and maintain the 2-story ancillary building containing a laneway suite that was constructed without an authorized building permit. The existing detached shed abutting the west lot line will be demolished. The existing 3-story detached main dwelling on the lot will remain unaltered. The committee has before it a copy of the minutes from the December 6th panel meeting, copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, supporting materials from the agent, and a staff report from Urban Forestry. So, Mr. Evangelista, so if you want to sort of give us a bit of an overview, I think also the panel members would be interested in knowing how this was constructed without a building permit.
Okay, so yes, Mr. Chair. Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owners for 329 Strathmore. So this structure has been on this location for many, many years. As you see from the pictures that I provided, it's in plywood. So what's happened over the years is there's been some deterioration and erosion. So upon trying to fix that, because it was an existing structure, it's always been there, it's been used for storage, they tried to just, basically do a repair to what was eroding, because, it was not in safe condition. And that brought, I take it a complaint, and that's why they got the order to comply. So now, what you have in front of you, we're trying, because at that point in time is when they found out it's not legal. So now what we're trying to do is basically fix what's there and legalize it. And now family dynamics have changed, and they want to have it as storage and also use it for a garden suite, which is what is in front of you today. So that's why we have the OTC. It's not that it was something that was done, willingly, or I should say maliciously. So the variances that, now you'll see some of the pictures that I provided you a 2D aerial view. And I would like to add that this particular, and again, there are 14 letters of support from all neighboring properties, be it in front, behind, and everyone is in support. Everyone knows that it's been there for quite some time, and nothing was done in a malicious manner. So this is right downtown. It's right in the heart of city. It's at Coxwell and Danforth, close to TTC. This is a structure that's going to be used, a garden suite that is going to be used for family, to give them the opportunity to have their own place and be within the city. So I'm open to any questions that you may have. You'll see from the photos that I provided that, there are structures all along the laneway. This is more of a laneway suite, and it does have very similar other properties of same nature that backs onto Danforth, and we do have 1544 that is directly behind 1544 Danforth, that is directly behind 329 Strathmore, that is in support. You'll see that the actual context and the idea, the general idea of what is transpiring in this neighborhood, you can see from the 2D aerial on page 3. We do have a height variance, which is much lower than what the existing laneway structure is. We've brought it down substantially. We've brought it down to 5.6. And I am open to any questions that you may have.
Great.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Panel, any questions on this application? Sorry, Peter first.
Thanks, Chair. Just one regarding the 0 meter rear setback that's required from the laneway, and I know this is to preserve access. I'm wondering if you can just comment if this is a common condition in the laneway, having 0 lot setback on that side of the lane?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is very common, both on the north and the south laneway. We are going to restore right now where that laneway structure is currently. That will be maintained. So that's not going to be changed because that portion is in good condition. So that will be maintained. But this is and you could see from my pictures where you see laneway view, you can see that there are many structures that abut the laneway lot line.
Okay, thank you. Nellie?
Yeah, a couple of questions. First, the main entrance to the suite, will it be from the laneway or is it from the north side?
The main entrance will be from the laneway.
Okay. I don't think it shows on drawings. It is-
My apologies. No, it will be from the north.
Okay.
It will be from the interior.
Looks like there's a set of stairs there, right?
I think the stairs are now, but no, yes, it's some kind of, different.
Mhm.
And and so the main reason you mentioned that the main reason for the height variance is that the owners want to have some storage underneath, like on the first floor.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. The first floor, it will be, there's the stairs that take you up, there's the kitchenette, and there's going to be an area that will be enclosed, that will contain the storage area. And then upstairs will be the bedroom.
So it's a
with the
two-story.
bathroom.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Dylan?
Just to clarify, what did you specify the height is going to be?
The height currently is going to be 5.6.
Okay, the variance.
5.62.
The variance request says 4.76 meters in height. So I think we'll need to correct that.
No, not the public hearing notice that I'm reviewing. That happened at the last hearing. Through you, Mr. Chair, that happened at the last hearing.
So, Dylan,
And that's why we
which
had to
variance are you
defer.
referring to?
So I'm looking at the let's see. I want to make sure I'm looking at the correct one. I'm looking at the first agenda. Requested variances, number 4, has a height of 4.76. The two-story ancillary building has a height of 4.76 meters, it says. That's not the...
Sorry, is this the deferred package? This is the
No.
previous package?
Oh, this is the previous package, sorry, got it.
So the current application,
My apologies.
variance number 3, has a height of 5.62.
Yeah, no, my apologies, I had the wrong
No worries.
package.
A quick question about the landscaping in the rear. It looks like your proposal is to kind of open up any of the lands that don't have a shed or the proposed suite or the deck on it. But looking at your photo of the rear, it looks like it's that roll-out grass. That's there currently? Do you know what I mean? That artificial grass?
Yeah, that's the existing situation. That is all going to be all re-landscaping, because let's also keep in mind that, one second, that north-facing wall will also be brought in. Like the structure on the north side is going to be brought in substantially so that we can increase the landscaping in the back of it. Right? So the pictures that you're seeing, that was something, they were using it as like a putting green or something to that effect. Right? So, but that's all going to be open space and all landscape. As I show you on page 5 of my submission, where I show all the landscaping, the rear along the side.
Okay. That's great. Thank you. Any further questions? Paul?
Did you say that the shed was going to be removed? The existing shed? Did I hear that correctly?
Is your microphone on? There we go. Okay.
I'm sorry, repeat the question. I'm asking whether or not the existing shed will remain. Or is it to
The
be removed?
existing shed will remain. The existing shed, through you, Mr. Chair, the existing shed will remain.
It says it will be demolished on.
The other shed is.
Somewhere it says shed's demolished.
Yeah, it says that.
What's that little teeny one?
Yeah, I think it's.
Oh, it's that.
I think you
A portion of it, because a portion of that north side will be demolished, yes, because that's where a lot of the decay and it's unsafe.
Okay. Any more questions?
Welcome you.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll take this into committee. Panel, does anyone have any comments or thoughts on this one? Dylan, you look like you're chomping.
No, I'm just going to say that, to be honest, I think we would easily pass this normally. The only weird thing is the fact that there was a structure there. But clearly the existing structure, which was kind of jury-rigged, will be demolished, which is for the best interest of everyone. And this much more useful and well-built structure will replace it. So I think this is generally a good thing.
Okay, I think we'd agree. Do you want to make a motion to that effect?
Sure. I will make a motion to approve this application with the conditions of Forestry 1, and I think there's TTC conditions as well.
Yes. Okay. Motion to approve with those two conditions. So I have a seconder. Nellie? All in favor? You have your approval, Ms. Evangelista. Could we also just introduce the for the record comment about the building permit?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. And we are adjourned at 5:02 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.